Did you know that Ghana spends nearly $200 million annually importing palm oil, despite it being one of the leading producers of palm oil in West Africa? Let that sink in for a minute. So, what if this crucial economic leak or economic gap could be sealed and Ghana transformed to become a global powerhouse in terms of oil palm production? Today, we'll look at Ghana's $500 million plan to change its palm oil industry, creating more jobs, helping farmers, and building new businesses. So, if you're curious about where money and opportunity meet, this is your big story. Let's dive right deep into it. So, historically, palm oil has been grown in Ghana since the 1800s. And back then, the country was a major exporter of palm oil or palm oil related products. So now, as you can see, currently Ghana ranks a third in terms of West Africa, in terms of countries that produce palm oil. The volumes that they produce, Ghana ranks a distant third, I would say. And the country imports estimations of 30%. I think it could be even be far more, but the actual value is about 200,000 metric tons per year in terms of palm oil the country imports. And the value of that 200,000 metric tons per year is approximately about $200 million per year. That is money that Ghana basically throws away, or hard-earned local currency that needs to be changed into US dollars to go and buy palm oil, which could be produced locally. That is how much is draining the nation's foreign currency reserve. So anything that could be done to seal that, to plug that, would save the nation 200 million US dollars every year. And so as you can see from the graphic here, you see that the country started well, and over the years, over the centuries, there has been a steep decline in palm oil production output. And there's no gimmick or there's no magic with it. I believe that somewhere in the 60s, emphasis was moved away from palm oil to other cash crops or other post-colonial shifts, including like maybe shifts to cocoa and other cash crops, to the detriment of palm oil. Not to cast any shade on produce like cocoa, which are served Ghana very well, but why couldn't the two of them be done side by side? That's my argument. So when you look at it, the problems in terms of the fast decline over the years up to this point, I think it could be grouped into three main categories. One is that there are not enough new plantations being cultivated, and there's a reason to that. There's a cost element to that. There are operations element to that. There's the post-harvest, manufacturing value chain also related to that. So there's a whole complicated array of events. Then the second one is obviously not enough factories to process the fruit into oil, into edible oils, right? And then the third one is, which is to me is the biggest of them all, is there's lots of illegal importation of cooking oil. And illegal importation means that the importers or the smugglers avoid paying taxes to the state, in which case the state gets enough revenue to also revamp the sector. So there's a lot. So some estimates puts it at about 90% of cooking oil that lands on the kitchen tables of average Ghanaians is smuggled. It's smuggled. Let that sink in for a minute. Almost 90% is smuggled. And the government's new policy, which is going to be kicking in between next year, that's 2026 to 2032, aims to find a way to address that. And you're going to go deep into what that policy actually means. And the policy aims to bring together past efforts, and there were past efforts to revamp this sector, the oil palm sector, that failed. And you're going to look at why past efforts failed and add ingredients like better financing, public-private partnerships or public-private projects, and also help include smallholder farmers into the entire mix. So let's take a look at the real policy itself. So this policy that the government of Ghana is bringing to inject 500. Before we dive into today's analysis, I want to share something very valuable with you. And that is, if you are finding this Africa business intelligence useful, you need to know about our newsletter that goes even deeper. We publish 2 specialized newsletters each week that delivers the market intelligence you can't find anywhere else. On Tuesdays, we send out AI Africa Weekly, your source for African AI investment and innovation intelligence. This covers everything from fintech funding rounds to AI implementations across the continent, plus global AI developments that impact African markets. Then on Thursdays, you will get our markets and investments newsletter, which is focused on infrastructure development, traditional sector investments, and business opportunities across African markets. So think infrastructure projects, private equity deals, and policy changes that create real business opportunities. Both newsletters are completely free, and they are read by investors, corporate executives, and business leaders across Africa and internationally. You can sign up for both newsletters by using the link in the description below, right below. Now let's get right back into our video, into our analysis. Palm oil production and processing, or cultivation and processing and production. This is being couched under a big national strategy called the National Integrated Oil Palm Development Policy. National Integrated Oil Palm Development Policy. And what does that seek to do? What does it seek to do is basically categorized or can be captured under 4 main buckets or 4 main categories. The first is that the government is working together with international funding agencies like the World Bank to inject $500 million, 500 million US dollars, right? And first thing is to provide financing, or what we call patient capital or patient investment. Why patient investment? The reason is that oil palm takes anywhere there about 7 years before it matures. When you grow from seedling stage to maturity, it takes 7 years. Typically, commercial banks will not lend you that kind of money for that venture because it's just too long before you will start seeing money. So they would not do that. So historically, it's only small scale or smallholder farmers that typically grow oil palm. And because of that, there's not enough volume around to be able to fulfill the demand that is needed locally. Hence, the need for this mass importation. So the World Bank, working together with the government of Ghana, makes available a loan, we call it concessionary loan, that has a 5-year moratorium on it. What that literally means is that when you get access to that loan through the Bank of Ghana, through the government of Ghana, I think it's going to be through the Development Bank of Ghana. Yes, the Development Bank. If you are an investor and you want to go into this and you secure that loan, you don't pay anything up to 5 years. It's on the 5th anniversary or 5th birthday of the loan that you start servicing the loan. So that gives you ample room for you to for you to start the plantation. That takes a lot of risk off the table as an investor for you. And what the mechanics of the loan is that the loan is going to cover 70% of the project financing. So for instance, if let's say I'm just throwing numbers out there. This is by no means accurate, but I'm just throwing out there. Let's say you are investing, say, $1 million in growing maybe 50 hectares of palm oil. I just put that number on top of my head. For simplicity purpose, $1 million. That means that when approved, you could be, or actually, you could be approved for $700,000. That you don't pay any, you don't service that loan, don't pay any interest, no pay nothing until after 5 years. And that is great, right? That is great because banks, commercial banks will never lend at this rate. So the government partnering together with World Bank is making this happen. So that's the first bucket or the first category of what this policy is all about. The second of it is that the plan aids to create 100,000 additional hectares of new oil palm plantations. 100,000 hectares. So just to wrap your mind around it, those of you who live in North America and the likes, I was Googling this and what does 100,000 hectares look like in terms of landmass? And I got this back. Now 100,000 hectares is like the entire city of Los Angeles, which is a huge city with millions and millions of people living in that city. So that's how big the government of Ghana wants to add additional oil palm plantations. So and in doing so, this will give more raw materials for factories and mills. So if you're an investor, you're thinking of, wow, sometimes it may your business may not just be producing palm and waiting for 7 years to start recouping some of your capital. But there's business idea about if the government is looking at doing that. What about people who would want to get into the palm oil seedlings? That now becomes a big business opportunity. Seedlings, that is cultivating seedlings so that it can be forwarded or onwarded to oil palm plantations or farmers that want to get into the oil palm plantation business. So there could be businesses, especially small businesses that whose core business is just growing the seedlings. That is one business idea. To give an example, I think for the government of Ghana to show that this is not child's play, this is a real thing that the government is really serious about. There is a pilot scheme currently running in Ghana right now with a private sector operator called Onesta Ghana Limited. Onesta, Onesta Ghana Limited. That is working on a 10,000 hectare farm called the Red Gold Oil Palm Plantation Project. Red Gold, you can Google it. Red Gold Oil Palm Plantation Project. That is to produce both the crude and refined palm oil. That's a testament that the government is serious, looking for strategic partners to roll their sleeves together, tie their apparel on the hip to be able to make this vision of making Ghana one of the flagship locations for palm oil or palm plantation happen. Then the third bucket is very, very, very important. This is the integration. The vision of the government is to help many Ghanaian oil palm outgrowers, small mom and pop farms or farms that are owned by youth and women, to help them, to make them a part of this, not just the large palm plantations, but smallholder farmers are going to be integrated into this whole new policy. And the advantage to them is that they will get access to better seedlings. That's number one. They will get access to cheaper fertilizers. They get access to training. They will get access to soft loans. And most importantly, the government will guarantee to buy their produce off of them. The technical term is guaranteed off-takers contract. So, guaranteed off-take contracts. So no matter the volume that these smallholder farmers are going to produce, there's a guaranteed ready-made buyer. What is better than this, right? And the special attention is going to be given is in this area. Special attention is going to be given particularly to helping women and young people through smallholder support fund. So that is pot number 3. Let's look at pot number 4, which is to me the overarching, to me the most important. Yes, the funding part is important, but in terms of ranking, I would rank the funding and what I'm about to talk about, and then the integration with smallholder farmers. Then the fourth one is protection. So the government's policy here is to stop illegal imports of cooking oil and improve quality. There's a big problem in smuggling. There are a lot of cooking oil in Ghana today comes from illegal sources. I've already mentioned it. And these are what you call the leak revenue, or in terms of the government is not able to collect taxes. So what they are planning to do is to work together with the revenue authorities of the nation to put what we call the revenue seal. It's some kind of a small seal on top of the opener of, let's say, a gallon of cooking oil. This has been done for like beverages and soda, or some people call it minerals or drinks. That's Coca-Cola and Fanta, Sprite, malt, and all those kind of things. So anywhere in Ghana, you go to the shop to buy them, you realize that there's a small seal there, or a small stamp that has some kind of a barcode in there. It's placed there by the revenue authorities. They use that to track, and that helps to maintain quality. That also helps to prevent smuggling of those goods into the country. So they are going to implement that policy to keep a very, very tight, close eye on the palm plantation, or palm oil, as you would call it, in the country, right? And then I just wanted to take a look at this visual for a minute. This basically captures everything I'm talking about. That the country imports 200,000 metric tons of oil, or cooking oil, palm oil, right? And then what this policy aims to do is to add additional capacity, or additional capability of, or additional volume of 100,000 hectares of new oil palm plantations to whatever exists today. The government's policy seeks to do that. And it's to do that is going to provide some kind of soft funding or patient capital, so that farmers can have that confidence, particularly investors can have that confidence to invest in palm oil because of all the patient capital. And the reason for the patient capital is that it takes 7 years. It takes right around 7 years for palm oil to mature. But this is my point. This big fat 250,000 here means jobs. The government is projecting that it could create in excess of 250,000 direct jobs. That would help build this industry bigger and make Ghana an agro industry hub, particularly in the West Africa sub-region. And this fits a very much bigger goal. So we move from just selling raw crops to now making the product in a way that adds more value and also has the propensity for export. So not only will it fill the local demand, which is huge, but there could be excess for the country to now export, to become a net exporter of palm products. So 200,000. I'm not even talking about indirect jobs. If direct jobs is going to be 250,000, the indirect jobs could be in excess of 1 million. And to put it in context, this is a country similar to other countries in West Africa that has prohibitively very high youth unemployment, very, very, very high. So if one sector, and to me, the palm sector is going to be a game changer, synonymous to other industries in other countries that I normally use this term anchor industries. I believe that every country, particularly poor developing countries, focus on anchor industries that they can build. And anchor industry in this case, it could be palm oil, could be cocoa, could be whatever it is. So, and just to put in perspective, many years back, I think in the mid 1950s or whatever it is, South Korea, as we see today, was a very poor country, struggling country, and the authorities, it was agricultural, agro-based economy that they were operating in those times, and they decided, great move, to build on an anchor industry. So the country's development bank, that's the Korea Development Bank, decided to pump billions of dollars into just one thing: steel production. That is what gave birth to Hyundai. Hyundai was a steel producer. They pumped that money into Hyundai. Hyundai became the second largest steel producing company or plant globally, second only to China. And from that, once that anchor industry solidified, other industry verticals began to spring out of it, like shipbuilding, electronics, building of semiconductors, chemicals. They all came out of the steel producing plant in Korea. And right after that, right after the success of that, now Korea became known for shipbuilding. I think as of now, Korea probably, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the number one shipbuilder in the world. Why? Because the government's focused on just one anchor industry per time. Palm oil could be that because the layers and the value chain of the palm plant is huge. Everything about palm can be monetized. So when you look at it, when I was growing up, we'll go to the farm with my mom and my siblings, and you see that when the palm even falls and is dead, or the palm tree is overgrown and they cut it down or it falls and it dies, that's when even the palm wine people, they use it they suck the tap out of it, they become palm wine. Today, that industry is growing. I know people or businesses that package and export palm wine to Europe and Dubai and other places. No, palm wine was like a disposable drink. Disclaimer: I don't drink, never have. But I'm talking about use cases and the palm oil value chain, right? So that becomes an offshoot. Then once even the tree is dead, I mean completely completely dead, about to getting rotten or whatever it is, the palm plant also is able to create, I don't know how, a certain level, kind of high protein mushroom that is like a local delicacy and is very expensive. So just that. Then when you look at the palm, there's a fruit. The fruit is composed of the soft shell. Then once the softer shell is removed, then there's the dark shell that needs to be taken out. Then inside the darker shell is also a fruit, which is whitish in color. That is also used for oil or cooking oil. The soft shell is used to make the red palm oil. Then the white inner fruit is used to make a different type of cooking, like it's almost akin to like coconut oil. That's how it looks like. It's also very edible cooking oil. Then there are so many use cases, and I believe with the advancement of science and technology, I bet if more investment is thrown into palm oil research, there would be possibly another dozen use cases of palm oil, if I'm not mistaken. So in terms of regional and global context, basically what Ghana is trying to do is to copy the successful models of countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, who are like the top two in terms of palm oil production globally. It didn't used to be the case, but they leapfrogged Africa, and now those two countries are the biggest producers of palm globally. And big international groups like World Bank, as I said earlier, they are watching and they want to participate to make this dream or this vision happen super, super quickly. So let's look at let's put it all together. If you are an investor or a potential farmer or you want to get involved in this play, let's look at some of the potential investment implications as it pertains to this kind of opportunity. So the first thing is going bullish, right? The first thing is the long-term investment or patient capital, as we put it, right? Because of the long-term loans that are being made available, and then the waiting period, the long-term loans vis-a-vis the 7-year wait period. Investors who can think long-term, you may find fantastic opportunities here. This is the reason why. Because right after 7 years, every year you're going to be able to harvest. And the government has offtake agreements. And after the initial 7 years, I know palm plantations that far outlive their owners. I've seen one. There was a time, particularly in areas like in Ghana, particularly areas like the Eastern region, the Ashanti region, Volta region, the Brown Hafu, the Oti region, those areas, very fertile soil for palm. So growing up, I knew of a man who had grown a massive plantation in the eastern region of Ghana, around the Kwahu area. It was massive. The man has been dead and gone for like 30 years now. His plantation is still there. So to me, I see palm not only being some kind of a red gold, but it's also a kind of real estate asset. That's the longevity of palm. So for serious investors who have a little bit of patience, this could be a game changer because the downsides are not many. The upsides are just too much. So that is one part of it. Then the second part is the opportunity for the public private partnership, the PPP partnerships, as demonstrated by the One Star relationship with the Ghana government, the One Star Ghana Limited pilot, the 10,000 hectare pilot, right? So there will be opportunities to work with government on plantations, not just plantations, but factories. Think about logistics and refining plants. There will be opportunities for public private partnerships or cooperations with government to make this vision come to fruition. Then the next thing is looking at the smallholder supply chains are going to evolve. So businesses, particularly businesses that help farmers with technology. So talking about ag tech startups that could help smallholder farmers to be able to improve their yield, that will help smallholder farmers to be able to send their products to the right channels or the right places for them for those contracts to be executed quickly so that they can get their money very, very fast. There's going to be a whole slew of community built around the oil palm production ecosystem. And when we talk of all the good things, there's also risks. So I'll talk about a few risks. And the risk in something like this includes number one, the illegal importation or smuggling of cooking oil into the country. So if you invested all your money into such a venture and the government doesn't tighten up that part and still smugglers are able to smuggle their goods through, then basically you are putting you're pouring water into a basket basically, and resources are going to leak. So that is a risk. So I will be on the lookout for what the concrete plan of the government is going to be in terms of policing the smugglers. So that's going to be a main thing. Then there are also typically issues with land acquisition, like any part. If you're going to be in oil palm plantation, don't put oil palm plantation in the greater Accra region. There's always land litigation around Accra area. And Accra soils, I don't think, are that fertile. So look for farms a little bit hinterland. Those places, yes, there could be issues with land title or land issues, but they are quite minimal compared to like the big urban centers. So do your due diligence on that. And then potentially a global pricing volatility could be a risk, but I think it's a very, very low risk. Judging from the demand that palm oil has locally. So in terms of timing, in terms of timing, investors should basically watch how the government, as I said, enforces this rule. That is the anti-smuggling rule. To me, that is going to be a key as an investor. Watch what their announcements are. Watch also any new additional PPP projects that the government of Ghana may announce going forward. And in the broader market perspective, if Ghana succeeds, this could become a model for other African countries to copy because it's going to imply more jobs, better rural incomes, and stronger food security for the nation and other nations as well, right? And also, the key lessons here is that patient long-term money, patient long-term capital, connecting that with large plantations or large farms, then supporting smallholder farmers, putting together strong rules and regulations to protect the supply chain, to protect against smuggling. To me, that's the game changer. So in conclusion, what are we talking about? In conclusion, yes, the policy aims to inject $500 million into the oil palm cultivation or oil palm production ecosystem. And it's baking this into a financing model that fits into long-term agriculture projects. With a mix of big plantations with small farmers or small outgrow farmers, opportunity for public-private partnerships, and businesses that supports you're creating businesses that support farmers. And the challenge, as I said, was prevention of smuggling. If that could be done, I think that would be a mega, 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 mega thing. So I want you to digest it a little bit. But before we do, I will be curious to find out what Africa Insights AI platform also has as a take on this. I haven't really queried it. So let me quickly log in and then let's quickly see what other insights we can quickly pick from Africa Insights. So let me just quickly do this. Okay, so I've put in my authentication. Great. So fantastic. I've been logged in. So the first thing, there's a tool that I already know. If I didn't know the tool, I'll just type my query here and search it to show me which tool or which template I need to run to get the needed response based on my objective. But I know precisely what tool, which is the market intelligence chat. Basically, it's like a chat bot within the platform. So I click on that and I will go to the country of Ghana. And so let me just pick Ghana. Okay. Once I'm done, and the sector is correct, is agriculture and agribusiness. There are many other sectors. So I'm just going to say, let me just do that. Outline the key opportunities for the oil palm sector. And then I will submit that. So what this is going to do is basically it's going to do a detailed deep dive based on, you remember I didn't mention Ghana in my query. I didn't mention agribusiness. It already knows that by default. And it's going to do that. It takes a little while because the research is very deep and it's going to give us that. So we're done. So let's look quickly what it says. So it says large scale investment and expansion. Ghana plans to invest $500 to develop 100,000 hectares. So our analysis was right. Okay. And it says that Ghana imports, the sector, imports $200 million annually, are spent to basically import 200 metric tons of crude palm every year. Let me make it a bit bigger. I'm just going to zoom in a bit, okay, so that it becomes far more legible. Okay, so then let's look at that. It says job creation. There is an opportunity to create job creation and rural development. The integrated development plan is expected to create between 250 to 500,000 jobs across the value chain, supporting rural livelihoods and economic transformation. There's opportunity for value addition and industrialization here mentioned. It also talks about the smallholder farmers integration, which is very, very good. And then it's also talking about access to patient capital here, right? So our analysis is spot on. Okay. And then it talks about market conditions and opportunities here. So it says Ghana ranks third in West Africa for palm oil production, but currently imports about 30% of its domestic demand, indicating a significant gap in market opportunity. That's the opportunity. So domestic consumption is around 250 metric tons annually, while production is about 50,000 metric tons. So this highlights massive demand. And it also talks about the policy includes measures to protect domestic producers, such as tax stamps regime to reduce smuggling. We talked about that in our analysis. And then it talks about some of the challenges. Oil palm takes nearly 7 years to reach full maturity, requiring patient, predictable capital, which conventional short-term loans do not provide. It talks about land acquisition being issue in some communities, and then technology and production gaps being something to look at. Let's look at the actionable recommendations. So the actionable recommendations is to mobilize and structure patient capital, which the government is already doing. Strengthen smallholder support. I think the government is also doing. So basically, the tool, the Africa Insights tool, regardless of what the government of Ghana is doing, is coming up with its own recommendations. And it's amazing that what the government is doing is basically government is checking the boxes here, right? So modernizing technology, that one is not part. I haven't seen that in the policy yet, but it could be somewhere in the bigger policy when it is unveiled. So modernizing technology, that is promote adoption of modern milling and refining technologies among artisanal producers to increase efficiency, quality, and competitiveness. Implement transparent land acquisition frameworks, enhance value chain development, enforce regulatory measures, and promote sustainable standards. I think this is fantastic. Awesome. So this is where we will draw the curtain. So if you like content like this, where we go deep dive to break down potential areas of investment opportunity, I want you to drop a comment so that I know this kind of content is what you like. This kind of content is not for everybody, but it's for those who are serious about opportunity in Africa, and those who are a little bit patient, those who want something that is sustainable over a long time horizon. I think that is what we stand for on this channel. Awesome. So I look forward to seeing you in my other videos. You can watch some other videos I did about investment opportunities in Ghana a while back that you can, if you want to binge this type of content, you can do so. Awesome. So until that, I want to see you my next video as well. Thank you. Peace.